Muchas gracias.
Good afternoon, and thank you.
Esta oportunidad.
Thank you so much for this marvelous opportunity to be here in the Vatican, in the core of the Vatican, together with this group of women who have been invited by the organization, by Chantal Goetz's foundation. So, the voice of so many women
para poder llegar a ser en el mundo.
Multiplies to be a large group in the world with a one single voice. So today we have to talk about this group leadership that women have begun, each one from their own mission. And that is why
Eternamente Argentina, eternamente agradecida.
I am here from Argentina, and I am grateful for what God has given us as a woman in the 21st century, considering the condition of women and also the condition of a religious person consecrated to God. Well, in this church that I have always dreamt of, we have to cross these borders, these barriers of political and social corruption, and also cultural at the same time, where human rights, especially women's rights, have been treaded upon and violated. And the human being, which is the most precious thing that we have in the image of God, well, first of all, we have human dignity. And all this assumes the fact that we need to wake this development. We need to love creation. And starting from the human being up to giving the human being back our devotion in our daily activity, and also our solidarity, which goes beyond our work. This is a mission, a true mission, where this capacity to love is supported by faith, faith which belongs to God, which is anchored in the voice of God, but at the same time it is projected towards a human being. This means towards commitment, which also assumes hope. So we have hope. We are women who believe in hope. We want a better world with greater possibilities for the woman in terms of equality, to be part of this wealth, man and woman together. So we should continue to build this kingdom that needs to be humanized, because this neoliberal capitalism has totally destroyed this human dignity through this inequality and injustice present in the world.
Hay que aprender en este siglo XXI a leer los nuevos
in the 21st century, we must learn to interpret these new signs that somehow are suggested by the new reality. So these are signs that to us, women, especially as a religious person, they are in contemplating reality, but from the point of view of faith. So interiority needs to have this dialogue with God. And please allow me to say what Saint Teresa said. I am Carmelitan, and this talking about this dialogue, it needs to be transformed through contemplation, a dialogue that we experience through this encounter with God, but also with a human being. So this mystic nature that goes towards the commitment. It does not remain inside the human being in this mere contemplation of God, but we focus on our everyday work, life as a woman. and in my case, as a consecrated woman, projected towards humanity. Well, my passion for humanity stems from this love contemplation. And
mataron una chica de 17 años, la violaron.
I went to college, and there was a girl who was raped. She was 17 years old. 5 boys, the sons of powerful people in the province of Catamarca in Argentina, they raped this girl, this 17-year-old. And everything was hidden. There was a political concealment because other people were killed as well, I can assure you. And they did this because they wanted to conceal this crime. But society, sorry, I started from this leadership. I didn't know I could become a leader. I realized later on. And you learn to be a leader, and we are learning to become leaders. Sometimes we try to be better organized. So it's a force that is more powerful, but it's not a power of violence. It is not power itself, but the fact of being women, feeling women. We want to struggle. We want to fight. Now, this girl, this young 17-year-old, was killed, and there were marches of silence, a silence for this true pain that was triggered by this death. And this cry of silence was far more powerful than the 30,000 people who demonstrated. Now, back to leadership. So accompany this family in the pain for the death of this girl. All this turned into a collective leadership because the entire society called for justice from this corrupted government, where the sons of the powerful were more powerful, and they were involved in trafficking, human trafficking, criminal organizations. And after 2 years, at last, we successfully changed the government through legal elections, so through leadership to play a role in society. But women played a very important role in this particular context, also following this march of silence, because during the summer, women really communicated through the media their voice, and their voice was heard. It was a very strong voice. So the media and papers hid everything in those days. Everything was concealed, but thanks to the national and international media, it was possible to spread this case. And after 2 years, we got justice. And this happened 25 years ago, but there's a political and social debt that the Catamarca government has that is still present with all its society. And this leadership that was that started after this march of silence caused by the death of this girl. Well, it's as if we had recruited this girl who was sexually exploited. So there was this concealment. And there was this trade. Lots of reports were filed, and I'm now a public woman. Como por ejemplo, tráfico de bebés. For example, there was trafficking of babies for international adoptions, because there were women who were caretakers, and they were very, very poor. They worked in the homes of wealthy families, and they were expecting babies, and they had to continue to keep their job that was well paid, so they had to give away their babies once they were born. So these were some of the reports, and since this annoyed and disturbed the government, and I'm saying this with great respect, well, the church is not always independent from the governments, with due respect. And this part of the hierarchical church, unfortunately, joined forces with the government. And I was not supported by this part of the church and by the religious life in this province. It was a painful experience. There was a part of society that called for dignity because of the kidnapping of these girls, for human trafficking and sexual trafficking, not to mention the organ trafficking, where because I helped in a hospital with 5,000 mentally ill patients. One of the nurses was killed because she had reported this theft of plasma, of blood. This blood sample had been stolen, and also the corneas had been stolen for organ trafficking. So after so many years, we had to withdraw to Monte di Oca, to this region, and this doctor has disappeared. But this continues. I mean, this organ trafficking continues. It is now invisible. I mean, it is present, but we don't know much about it. But in other 2 or 3 cases in this province of Corrientes, where I live just now, and I mean, I realize that there are no marches, and the Argentinian society has demonstrated as a group, as a society, as a network. So networks are crucial, and we truly need to organize these networks. And in my view, women are really proving an example of this new mission in the 21st century world. I have great hope in this path, because it is important not to remain silent. We need to speak and no longer be ashamed, no longer be shy. We need to fight this solitude typical of these missions. We need to make pressure upon governments. What happens in Argentina, for example? I'm talking about my own country, for example, Argentina. At the institutional point of view, unfortunately, we have the government and the police that are corrupt, and we're getting ready for new elections. So 5 girls are kidnapped every single day for trafficking. So trafficking, drugs go hand in hand. They follow the same path. So there are these campaigns new for the elections, and if we count how many politicians are involved, well, there are quite a lot of them. So we have. So how can we get rid of these anti-values which affect our society? This is a slow job, but we should not be resigned, and we must not lose hope. And when we talk about sexual trafficking and violence, sexual tourism, pornography over the web, well, all this is really corrupting our societies, morally speaking. That is why we have had so much damage, problems in families. 9-year-olds are already interested in pornography. So how can we educate these children? So there is this political decision which is important. Youngsters, women become the object of these political actions. So the lack of education is defined in Argentina as a lack of human promotion, because education goes beyond this, but promoting the dignity of the human being is essential. So these political decisions which are kept, and the lack of this human promotion must be fought through social plans where the more vulnerable groups, those who do not have access to all this, and this means the majority of people in our country, there are millions of Argentinians who have no access to a more dignified life, meaning education and progress of the human being. So the social plan is enough only to survive with the minimum levels, and there is very little education. So who works? So now we have to face different social problems because human trafficking supports this poverty. So human trafficking supports this type of poverty, and also drugs. Drug smuggling is a great problem because a different reality appears. You stop existing, but you need to kill because you have to steal, you have to rob, and afterwards you use drugs at low prices. And mothers prepare the drugs, and we can't go into these slums if not through the presence of the police. Everything is so difficult. So I pray the Lord
de poder seguir trabajando en esta construcción de colectivo,
to give me the strength to continue to work,
que el día de mañana las mujeres
by setting up these collective groups in society, so that in the future Argentinian women
de nuestra sociedad
can offer our lives to the benefit of our society. And I'm saying this to the entire world. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.